Today I'm going to show you 4 common guitar practice mistakes guitar players often make without realizing it, and if you are making these mistakes also, it can cause you to waste years of practice time just spinning your wheels by getting nowhere as a player. The good news is though, once you simply understand what these mistakes are and then just stop doing them, it becomes a lot easier to see the results you want and become a much better guitar player a whole lot faster. Let's begin. Tip number 1, and this one is particularly important to speeding things up and making your faster playing feel easier, and that is to focus on the motion that your hands are playing more than the notes you're playing. Now I know this sounds blasphemous for musicians because we want to focus on the music and the expression and the whole thing, and that's of course part of it, but when it comes to playing things, physically executing the notes you're trying to play, you need to focus on the fundamental motions that your hands are making, and that's what I'm talking about here. Let me give you an example. Say you're trying to speed up this arpeggio. But every time you play it, you get this nasty bleeding sound or ringing on the middle 3 strings. That obviously sounds pretty horrible, and it's going to sound even more horrible if you try to speed that nasty sound up. So what most people do in this case, if they have some sense of how to practice, is they isolate the middle 3 strings. They may even try to practice the notes slowly, and they just try to repeat them over and over, hoping that they will get cleaner and faster over time. Well, the problem with this is that you're just focusing on the notes, but you haven't yet identified and isolated the core components of the motion that your finger is doing. The motion here in this case, of course, is finger rolling. Hopefully you already know what that is if you watch my videos, but now you need to understand what are all the details and the nuances that go into doing finger rolling in the most efficient way that allows you to play it cleanly as consistently as possible. For example, do you need to put the finger down like a little bar to get the rolling to happen? No, you don't. You want to fret the first note exactly as you would fret any regular note, then you collapse the knuckle to fret the second note, and then rock the wrist backwards a little bit to get the third note, and then you reverse the motions to do the descending part of the roll. But if you don't understand that this is the exact sequence of events that needs to happen, fret the first note, collapse the knuckle, rock the wrist back, and then reverse everything to descend, if you just put the finger down like a little bar chord every time you try to roll the notes like this, then it doesn't matter how many times you repeat the notes, it doesn't matter how much you slow down, it's still gonna sound sloppy. But once you understand the sequence of events that's happening when you're rolling the finger across strings, then you should not only practice it right here where the original arpeggio shape is, but you should practice it all over the guitar neck. So not just on strings 4, 3, and 2, but also on strings 3, 2, and 1, on strings 6, 5, and 4. Practice it on 2 strings, maybe even try it on 4 strings if you dare, even though it's going to be quite challenging. But you want to practice it in a variety of contexts. That's how you're going to get true mastery over the motion itself. And by doing that, you're not only going to get faster and cleaner with the original arpeggio, but you're going to get better every time you have to roll the finger across strings. Every lick that involves that motion is now going to be cleaner and faster. That's what you want. That's what's going to give you a lot more efficiency in your practicing. Tip number 2, stop practicing everything to the metronome. Now this may blow your mind, but your metronome does not build your guitar speed. The metronome really only does 2 things. One, it helps to train your timing, ability to play along with the click, of course. And secondly, it tests how well your technique or the motions you've been practicing are holding together as you increase your speed. So it's more of a tester of speed than it is a builder of speed. Changing bad habits or rewiring something in your muscle memory takes your full concentration, and you don't want that process to take longer by diverting some of your attention to listen to the click of the metronome. So when you're changing something in your technique, practice in free time, train the new motion, and then when you're certain that you got the motion in your muscle memory, at least to some extent, then take out your metronome and see how far you can push it. What's the tempo you can reach before the motions begin to break down or you become more tense or whatever the case is. Then turn the metronome off again, go back to practice and train the new motion again a few more times, or maybe like a few hundred more times, and then repeat the testing process again with the metronome. Tip number 3, stop searching for guitar speed exercises or speed building exercises, because those things don't exist. There's no such thing as a speed building exercise because you can't build speed directly. You can only work on the individual elements or the building blocks of speed. So things like 2-hand synchronization, you can train that. You can train efficiency of the picking hand, efficiency of the fretting hand. You can train tension control. You can train your timing. You can train your ability to hear notes at higher tempos, which is training your ear and training your mind to keep up with how fast your hands are moving. So those are the elements you can train, but speed itself itself is just a result of all the things I just mentioned coming together. So if you think about it, then anything you practice, and I mean literally anything you practice, can be used to build your guitar speed. All the licks you're already working on, all the solos you're already practicing, all of those things can be used to train some element of your guitar speed. Chromatic scales, yes, you can use them too. Major scales or other types of scales, yes, you can use them too. Some lick from an Ingve solo, yes. It all works as long as you know what to focus on to make your technique more efficient and you focus on it the right way. If you do that, anything is going to improve your speed. If you don't know what to focus on or you don't know how to focus on it, then it's all useless. And finally, tip number 5, which is really a byproduct of everything I talked about so far. Stop worrying about how much practice time you have or don't have. For one thing, worrying about how much time you practice is worrying about something you can't control, which is a complete waste of time. And secondly, focus instead on milking as much as you can out of whatever practice time you've got. If it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, doesn't matter. Focus on maximizing your RPM, results per minute, and that's what's going to allow you to improve much faster than somebody who maybe practices 2 or 3 times as much as you but doesn't focus on those things. And I know this one is pretty simple, but as one of my mentors once said, sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught, so keep that in mind. Believe it or not, you can actually build guitar speed without doing any slow practice at all. I can show you how for free in my video called Guitar Speed Formula. What it is a special way I've designed to practice guitar where you don't have to start slow and gradually build speed in small increments. Instead, as I said, you don't do any slow practice at all. If you want to see what it's all about, check out the link in the description of this video or go to the page on the screen right now, enter your email address, I'll send you the video for free. And now that you know more about what to focus on while practicing, watch this video right here where I'll show you how to put together needle-moving guitar practice schedules that make you better even if your practice time is very limited. So go ahead, watch it next.